So here we are at the sentencing for Toronto Police Constable James Forcillo, who was convicted of attempted murder in the streetcar shooting death of teenager Sammy Yatim back in 2013. And it was a curious, if not bizarre, decision by the jury. I'm not being critical of it, but it's curious because Forcillo was charged with second-degree murder and attempted murder in connection with 2 volleys of shots he fired at Yatim. And the jury acquitted him of murder, but convicted him of attempted murder, even though by the time he fired the second volley of shots into poor Sammy Yatim was already dying from the first volley of shots. So, I mean, try getting your head around that. Anyway, the mandatory minimum sentence for attempted murder is 5 years, and prosecutors are actually asking, or going to be asking, for between 8 and 10 years. And the defense lawyers for Forcillo want him, in an ideal world, to get what's called a conditional sentence, which means it's served in the community and you don't go to jail, except that the conditional sentence is not available as an option because of the mandatory minimum sentence, which is 5 years. So the judge will have to strike down as unconstitutional both the mandatory minimum in this case and the restrictions on what kind of offenses are eligible for the conditional sentence. Anyway, it sounds very complicated and very dull, and much of it is. Much of it is lawyers, if not angels, dancing on the head of a pin. But as a reminder of sort of what's at stake, or what was once at stake here, Sammy Yatim's mom is here, and at one point, I think it was this morning, I can't remember now, it all just became too much for her. She sat through the trial, she's been very composed, but she broke down completely and burst into tears and began wailing and left the courtroom. And that's the sort of toll it's taking on her. And on the other side is the face of James Forcillo, who is a young man with a wife and 2 young daughters, who is looking at a very realistic prospect of going to prison for at least 5 years, unless the judge declares this mandatory minimum to be unconstitutional. And I confess, I know some people struggle with the notion that perhaps it would be wrong for Forcillo not to go to prison, and I understand that, but I also struggle with the notion that a person who was duty-bound to engage with Sammy Yatim by his job, who was issued with a firearm, who had the legal right to use it, and was furthermore found to have used it legally in the second-degree murder charge, should now be subjected to prison on an attempted murder charge in a case where the young man is dead anyway. I'm now going to walk off camera so that when my head explodes, y'all will not have to see it.